Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bill Cruzy, and I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to join us for our webinar series. This is part of a business webinar series. This section is goal setting. We're going to get into the agenda really quick, though. Normal housekeeping stuff. If you've got a question, and this is less of a expulsion of me talking, and I'm hoping that by now you've already gone to the address that we gave you and gotten the material so we can fill this out. So as you're looking at the information we've given you, we're going to want you to maybe participate a little bit, ask questions. I'm going to try and expand upon each one of the topics that we're covering and that you'll be filling out in the materials. But if you have a question, please use that question and answer or the chat function. And I'll stop periodically, or Jamie will tell me that something's going on, but I will stop periodically and just say, hey, we've got some questions, Jamie, what do we got? But other than that, we're going to get started. Jordan and I are both sitting as panelists today. So welcome to please ask either one of us questions, follow up with us afterwards, etc. Jordan and I lead the business practice along with Nick White. And the goal here is to continue to give you, my small business clients, and any other non-clients on the webinar, we welcome you as well. The goal is to continue to give you the tools you need to succeed in business. That is absolutely our number one goal. So let's get started on here. So these are the building blocks of planning. Know your why. We did that last May because of the busyness and the way the schedule worked. We pushed goal setting into July. So welcome, July the 1st. 4th of July is right around the corner. Goal setting in July. Budgeting will be in August. So goal setting is not budgeting. We're going to get into that. So the next one is KPIs in September. Each one of these, one builds on the other. One makes sense to the other. You'll find that some goals will directly impact how you budget. KPIs will tell us how to stay on top of the budget. Monitoring your KPIs will make sure that we're still getting the horses to the wheel, so to speak. And the last one is succession, which will be in November. Now, why are we talking about succession? Why does Bill talk about planning the business to transition or planning the business to exit? Because think about everything else. You sell your house, what do? You clean it up, throw a good clean set of paint on places, clean all the floors, you get it ready, right? The house is never so pretty and so wonderful as before you sell your house, okay? And some of us go, why didn't we just do this a long time ago? Why didn't we just wait until we got rid of it and now we're moving on? But that's one thing. The other thing, just like any business, is you clean it up. You make it run as smooth as possible. You get the most out of that orange, so to speak, as most juice as you can, so that the next person wants to buy that revenue stream, because most of our businesses will transition based on some multiple of our cash flow. So we always talk about it in a succession or transition perspective, because we really do want you to get the business ready to go as you're going so you can enjoy it all those years. So this is the webinar series. These are the building blocks of getting this thing together. Okay, next one. The goal. What is a goal? A goal is the objects of a person's ambition or effort. It is an aim or desired result. So you can see right there that in the context of this webinar, goals may not be budgets. Goals closely resemble our ability to achieve our why. So the why, the goals impact budgets. Budgets can stand on their own. Okay, now how do we make sure the budget is working? We'll talk about KPIs, monitoring, etc. So that's really what a goal is. So are we prepared? And when you look in the context of are you prepared, it's are you prepared more than most people are prepared? One of the things that I learned a long time ago was that stop measuring yourself against others. Measure yourself first against the very best person you can be. It's the same thing with our business. Are we the best business we can be? So let's measure ourselves there. And then through monitoring and KPIs, we can drag into, if we want to, how do we compare with other very well-run businesses in our same business style? So are we prepared? So these three percentages, 78, 49, and 50, represent a 2019 survey. And I was just talking to Jordan, who finished the certified exit planning advisor exam just this last week. So he's a CPA as well. I believe these are very close to the same numbers from the same kind of study in 2020. And it basically goes like this: 78% of our small business have no transition plan. 49% of our small businesses have no exit planning at all, which means that all this together means 50% of our small businesses will transition, sell, close, whatever, before the owner is actually ready. Now, that's a terrible statistic. So part of this is I don't want any of my small businesses to be caught in that place. You know, we're doing a lot of trust planning. There's a lot of things going on in the US taxation. We're doing US code right now. And one of the things that's going on is we know there's some transitionary tax matters going on. Congress is looking at installing a lot of new laws, so to speak, and tax things. But when we look at the small business advisor, we must be prepared for not just this year and not the year I sell, but every year in between. And that's where that 50% number comes from, right? Is that we know that between now and when I actually pass away, or I actually sell my business, or I actually stop working, there's a lot of water going to run under that bridge. And anywhere in there, something may happen that I'm not ready for. Few of us were ready for COVID. The wonderful thing about the American business economy is most of us transitioned pretty quickly, you know, especially small business, which is the driver of the US economy. We did a pretty good job with COVID, all in all things considered. So now we want to get to the point now where we're not constantly reacting to the next thing. We want to get our business goals aligned so that we're ready for the unexpected. So what are we looking at here? The first thing I want us to look at is that we must understand that small businessmen and women cannot really extricate themselves from their small business. Now, many of us are very happy to say, hey, when I go home at night, I leave the business at home. I don't bring the business to the dinner table. I think that's fabulous. I really do. I think that's a wonderful way to run your life. But are you really extricating yourself completely? Do your personal goals run over into how you run your small business? I think it's really difficult for any of my small businesses to say, oh no, I live my life personally completely different. I don't even think about the business when I'm at home. I'm just not there with that. And so because of that, and because of the way I run my small business, I'm looking at ways to make this a better thing. But what we do know is, based on that assumption and that assertion, we must understand our readiness for both personal and business reasons. So we're going to be addressing the readiness personally and from a business perspective. Readiness for what? For whatever. Ready for transition, for growth, for opportunities, for unexpected hurdles. We want to be ready in all those instances, because as we know, most of us are rarely ready. I mean, a friend of mine always said, we back into life. And I think that's a true statement. So let's get away from that. That's what this is about, goals. So we want to assess the readiness of both my personal readiness and my business readiness for whatever may come our way. So now, goals. There are financial goals that we'll realize through budgeting, and there are the non-financial goals. Today, this readiness is going to be mainly about the non-financial goals. So before I get started, we're going to go through the personal readiness scorecard. So if you have that PDF or that Word doc, if you got it printed off, get your pencil, get your papers ready, and your little calculator, because we're going to go into that next. And before we do that, Jamie, any questions that have come up as we're sitting here going through this?
Not as of yet, but if you do have any, just drop them in the chat function or the question and answers, and we'll make sure they get answered for you.
Awesome.
Bill, I don't have any questions, but just to comment while you're filling out this readiness scorecard, I think it's easy to be very, very generous with your scores and saying, I'm doing great at a lot of things. I think I encounter that a lot whenever I talk to small businesses. Why isn't this going well? Well, I'm doing this, and this well. It's like, well, maybe you're not, because not everything's quite aligning there. So try to be really honest with yourself whenever you're saying, am I below average? Am I above average? Am I best in industry? Things along those lines. Because if you're not, the scorecard is not really helpful, obviously.
Jordan, I completely agree, and I'm going to challenge my small business owners on the call. Let's do this. Let's really do this today. Let's really look down and say, are we ready? So with that, Jamie, give me the thumbs up. Right now, what we should be looking at, and I'm going to switch it over here, is you should be looking at the personal readiness scorecard. Is that what we're looking at, Jordan, Jamie?
Yes.
Okay,
You just
awesome.
have the
Okay,
slide.
so what's that?
It's the blue slide. Are you actually pulling up the PDF?
No, I have the Word document in front of us, and what I'm hoping you see right now is a Word document that says personal readiness score. Do you not see that?
No, it's just the blue slide.
Okay, so we're going to get that. Let's go see if we can find that. All right, you should see something that says that's actually the business readiness. So my apologies, folks. Let me get back to this. Still says business readiness, doesn't it? Bear with me. I have it. It's open. I'm staring at it. Now, what do you see? You see personal readiness?
Yep, that's it.
Perfect. Okay, so this is the personal readiness scorecard. Now, the first thing somebody's gonna ask me is, why are there two? It's really just an efficiency for the paper. So the reason this is set up this way is really because for every small business owner or decision maker, okay? So in my firm right now, we have Jordan, Bill, Blake, and Catherine are all decision makers of the firm, okay? Bill and Blake are the managing partners. We are the general partners of the firm. Jordan is a limited partner. Catherine is not a partner yet, but the four of us do make decisions. So we would have four of these. And what's going to happen is each one of us will assess our personal readiness with the scores, the instructions on the right. No consideration is 1 and 6 is perfect. We don't need to do anything with it. And then we add them all up. We're looking for the max rating is a 66. We take all four of those times, whatever we get times 4, divide by the number of us, get the average rating. That tells us where we are. Now, where are we? Okay, so that's kind of the last thing. You can't quite see it, but if I can get 51 to 67%, then I'm slightly above average. Now, you'll notice that it's kind of like a lot of things in life. You either are or you aren't. There is no, yeah, I'm kind of good, right? You either are where you should be or you aren't. So if your average is a 4, you are where you should be with some room for improvement. If you are a 3, folks, we got some work to do, okay? So that's really what this is about, is addressing, do we have some work to do? So now here's the first one is, I'm gonna go through this line by line. So don't be kind to yourself. You're not sharing this with me. I would love to be on your business advisory board, so you can call us later and we would love to participate in that and help accelerate your ability to push this information forward. So the first thing is a written personal plan. Now, this is one we like to laugh a lot about at Hawk Cruising Associates, because as we know, got a lot of gray hair here. I should be thinking about, most of my career is behind me. There's not a lot left in front of me, right? So I should be thinking about interests outside of the business. What are personal goals and objectives? Are they defined? Are they written? Do we have integrated personal financial plans that integrate nicely with the way the business is doing? So the fact of the matter here is I'm about a 1 on this, probably a 2. I've thought about it, so that's a 2, no question. So I'm a 2 in that rating. So I want everybody to just think a few minutes. Do I have established interests outside of the business? Something I'm really passionate about. Now, some of us, so I'm involved in an organization called F3, Fitness, Fellowship, and Faith. It's a men's workout organization in the early mornings. I have a lot of passion there, but that is an interest outside of the business. But right now, it's something else I do. Okay. But is it something that when we think about our goals and objectives, it's got this big picture. No, F3 isn't there for that. F3 provides me that, first of all, working out and that kind of stuff, but it's not like I'd like to get better at playing golf. I'd like to get a new deck put on the place in Holland, Michigan, those kinds of things. What are those things? How are those aligning? And they really need to be a little deeper than I want to play golf and I want to, I used to tell people I want to drive the train at the zoo. So think through that. I'm about a 2 on that. So I thought about it. I could probably go with a 3, some completed, but if I did, I think my teammates would hold me accountable and tell me I'm really not a 3, but I could be a 2.
Bill, why don't you go ahead and zoom in a little bit on this if you can?
Yeah. How's that? Okay.
Oh, good.
All right. So the second one is a personal financial plan. Now, I use an Edward Jones advisor. John Caruso is my Edward Jones advisor, and he is constantly trying to get me to finish a personal financial plan. But as many small businessmen, I'm running as fast as I can. I haven't been in to see John, so I'm constantly focused on my customers, on my client small business, and spurring them to move this thing forward and trying to hold them accountable. In fact, Jamie, who's our client service coordinators, almost her entire job is to keep me and our clients on the timeline to finish projects, to finish planning. Me, I'm probably about a 2-3 here. Have some good things going, but really the whole personal financial plan haven't done. Now remember, it's really important for those of us who are married to make sure our spouses are connected with all of these. So it's one thing to think about my 401k. It's another thing to rope your spouse in and say, this is where we are with our 401ks. This are our investment decisions. If we plan to sell our business at some point in time or transition, or if I plan to do this, this is where we are from a retirement perspective. So that's what that personal financial plan is about. So I'm gonna give myself a 2 there. Okay. Jordan, you think those are both fair for me? What do you think?
Yeah, I think they're probably fair where you've thought about it, but maybe haven't actually put pen to paper on a lot of it.
Yeah. So now the next one, personal estate and tax plan. So that, remember, we didn't just say, do I have an estate plan? Do I have a personalized estate plan? Okay, so I did redraft my trusts, my wills, my powers of attorney for my healthcare power of attorney, my durable power of attorney. We did get all those redrafted 2 years ago. So they're 2 years old. It's time to rethink about when I'm going to update them. In fact, I've already started that conversation with my attorney, Ben Keller. So I'm going to give myself a pretty good notch here. Now I'm going to call myself a 4. I think I'm above average. I'm not best in class yet. I am taking the things I know and that I preach to my small business men and women and my individual clients about how this thing should work, and I am applying that. So I'm going to give myself an above average. I'm going to give myself a 4 here because it is started. It's in the process of getting updated again. But kind of give yourself a thought. Now, and just so that everybody knows on the phone call, if you haven't looked at your estate and trust plan and structure in the last 3 years, the rule of thumb is that it should be at least your healthcare powers of attorney need to be revisited by your attorney every 3 years. The law associated with the healthcare powers of attorney is absolutely in flux. It's constantly changing, and it does make a difference what state you live in. So if I live in Missouri but spend a ton of time in Florida, I might want to have a healthcare power of attorney in both states because they are categorically different. So, okay, knowledge of net proceeds.
So Bill,
really?
before we keep going forward, I kind of want to reconnect people back to why we're doing this, just because we have a lot of business people on here for a business workshop, and we're talking about a lot of personal things right now. And I think it's important to emphasize once again, the reason you have to go through this first is how can you decide what to do with your business if you need to grow it, if you need to sell it, if it's good as is, if you don't know what you're going to do with it afterwards, if you don't know what you're doing outside of it. So that's why we're starting here.
Perfect, Jordan. I agree. Very good. Bring it back to why we're doing this. That's right. So the next one is knowledge of net proceeds. Now, when you look at knowledge of net proceeds, that should be a piece of the personal financial plan. You have to have that in your mind. Or in my case, I don't see a sale of Hot Cruisy. What I see is a transition from me being managing partner to being more of a retired person, and then letting Jordan and Blake and other general partners kind of take over the horn. So it's interesting how we'll work that into my personal financial plan. But a knowledge of net proceeds, sorry, I got to give myself a 6 on this. I think I really know and understand how this business will work. Actually, I'm going to give myself a 5 because some of those plans in the planning stage with our firm continue to evolve. So I'm going to give myself a 5 on this. So when I look at my small business, how is what I'm doing going to work into the next phase of my life, or the current phase I'm in? Quite frankly, if we get the business where it ought to be, the current phase may actually be better. In fact, it should be. So the next one is defined post-business income needs. This is level of awareness, planning of spending, income requirements. I mean, legitimately looking at your needs in retirement. Your needs. Are you going to live in the same house? What's your current upkeep for the house? If you're 59 years old, as I am, and you think I'm going to be in this house for another 15 years, what have I already done that will need to be updated about the time I want to get rid of it, or before, in that 10-year period, and putting that in there. Once again, this is one where I have a pretty good idea of what my post-business income needs look like, but I don't believe that I'm really where I should be. So here I'm going to give myself a 3 because I've completed some of those steps, but I don't think, and the average that I'm setting for myself is a pretty good average. I think I still have many things to look at. I would suggest to you that most of my small business clients are probably 2, 3. Some will be a 1, but 2, 3 depends on how old you are, obviously. But once you hit 50, this should be a 4. Once you hit 50, you should know this as a 4. When you get to be, and you should be constantly getting that from a 4 to a 5. Okay, because you really have to understand how that business is going to work. Dependency on income from the business. The level of dependency on the business income is what that should say, not on the business for income, because obviously the business needs money. So it's the level of my personal life. How dependent is it going to be on business income now and in the future? Now, do I understand that dependency? Do I understand how it will work? I'm going to give once again, I'm going to give myself a 3 here because I do understand how it's going to work, but it's not in. Remember, the first one is that personal financial plan. It's not really in there yet. So we really have to make sure that's in there. So I'm going to give myself a 3 on this level because I know that I've completed a bunch of stuff. I have a good awareness, but is it all the way in there? No, it's really not. Okay. So the level of dependency you will have on your business for income. Now, why are we doing this? That sounds so far in the future. Go back to what Jordan said, because if I can understand my true dependency, it's going to impact the way I may budget some things. I may get a little leaner on some areas to drive profit margin, therefore cash flow, rather than just go borrow money. Because if I can get a little leaner somewhere to drive additional cash flow, then I may not borrow money. More importantly, it may enable me to constantly input more cash naturally into the other business areas that need it, especially if you're in a technology area right now. I've always said that Hawk Ridge Associates is a technology business because we do rely on technology to get that economies of scale so that we can price our product reasonably. So that's so I'm giving myself a 3 on the dependency of income for the business. Obviously, I'm dependent on the income for the business now. This is what I do for a living. Knowledge of the transition process. Now, I'm a SEPA, completed the training, I guess it was 1.5 years ago. Jordan's now a SEPA. Nick will soon be a SEPA. And the reasons to get this kind of certification is so that we can do a better job helping our small businessmen and women do transition, not just sale transition, not just ultimate retirement transition, but throughout their career, constantly transitioning from one role, getting in another role, and having other roles transition as well, so that you're constantly pushing that business to the higher level. So I'm going to give myself a 5 here. I don't know that I definitely know I'm not perfect, but I do understand the transition process, and I believe that we're putting in place a lot of the things that will help us understand the transition process. And for me, transitioning from managing partner to just an ordinary Joe, just doing a good job for clients. I understand that process, and we have those things going. So I'm gonna give myself a 5. I'm not giving myself a 6. Jordan, you see anything wrong with that when you think about transition processes right now, before we get into the business side?
No, I don't think so. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the next one is the establishment of advisory teams. So you heard me talk a little bit about, I believe our small businesses must have an advisory team. Now, an advisory team isn't somebody you call when the roof's caving in or when it's raining outside. An advisory team is somebody that you put together in a team in a collaborative effort to identify improvement and successes and build on both. Okay. Sadly, I've said it 1,000 times, we learn more when we have failure than we do when we have successes. Okay. But your advisory team will help you pick apart the successes so that you can learn how to replicate that more often, right? And then they'll help you go through the painful process of figuring out the failures so you can not do them again and turn the next one into a success. They're also going to help you challenge yourself and your perceptions about where you see your reality. Somebody else may look at this and go, Bill, you got way too many 5s on the board. You're not that good. Okay. It's not bad to have somebody challenge you. Okay. A collaborative event should be, you should be constantly in that healthy challenge stage. Okay. So established advisory team. I really think I'm in good shape here. I wouldn't say I have the formality maybe that I should have. So I'm gonna give myself a 4 on this, and that's definitely not gonna go to a 5. But I'm gonna give myself a 3 on this because I know I've completed a bunch of it, and I am along the route, but am I above average? No, go back to number 2, right? I haven't really roped in my financial advisor into all of the things I'm doing, and I think that's a key thing. Okay, so degree to which the transition team is defined and engaged. You're gonna see the same kind of thing on the business side. Establish defined contingency plans. Man, COVID taught us one thing, did it? You better be ready for whatever's coming at you. It's gonna come fast, and it's gonna come hard. And if you can sidestep, then you're gonna be a couple of steps ahead of everybody else. So do you have personal contingency plans? Are you building liquidity, which will take you through 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, whatever it is, months of no money? Are you building that liquidity? So personal contingency plans. Now, that also includes buy-sell plans, because once again, what if I'm suddenly disabled next year, 2 months? At the end of this call, have a heart attack, have a stroke, no matter what happens, get hit by a bus, walking across the street, you don't know. Is the business ready to pick up? Are you as an individual, this is personal, ready to keep going? Will you be okay? In my world, I'm in pretty good shape here. I think that we've got, definitely have things in place in case we need to access that personal contingency. But are we perfect? Nope, we are not. And do we have room for improvement? I say yes. I think I have room for improvement, so I'm going to give myself a 3. Knowledge of the ideal deal structure, knowledge of pros and cons of exit options and deal structures. This still goes back up to that up there on the personal financial plan, right? Are you really ready? Have you really thought through it? Yeah, go ahead.
On the last one, I would disagree. I would think that for contingency plan, you would be on the more above average side, because I know you have specific things in place already in case something suddenly happens, which means you have things established, which I would say a lot of people don't. I think that would put you at a 4 instead of a 3 personally.
So I can't disagree with that, but I will tell you, just to be honest, my wife of 36 years now, 36 years really is not involved in that. And so she would have to rely on a whole lot of people. And I think my goal on many of these things is finishing that piece up and making sure my wife, Barbara, really understands everything. Where is everything? She asked me the other day, where is everything? And I think that's a good question. So I think it's a good thing. I think I'm a long way there, but I don't know that I would call myself above average yet. Now, I think I'm above average of where most people are, right? I think most people haven't even thought of this, but I'm not where I should be. So I think it's a place that needs to have some thought into how do we get where you should be. So, but I think it's a good comment, very good comment. And folks, that's what you need. You got to have somebody that challenges you so you don't waste efforts on something where you're really probably already there, because there is no perfection here. You're never going to see it. If you start putting 6s on here, man alive, you got to be really good because there really is no perfection. So, but I think that's a very good challenge. Knowledge of ideal deal structure. Now, this one, I think I'm ready for this. I think so. I'm going to give myself a 5. Am I perfect? No, but I think we're best in class. So, my small business men and women out there, how does the deal structure impact you? Well, the deal structure is all about after-tax cash flow. You probably haven't heard me say that in at least 10 hours. But after-tax cash flow is all the deal is about. And that's why oftentimes we're working with a good client of ours on Monday, and we were talking about the absolutes of doing the large transaction. And what I came into and wanted to make sure they understood is we're looking for this number, right? Well, I may get it in 3 or 4 different ways, not just the same way, not just, sell the business, get the number. Well, that may not work for your buyer. So if I get the same number, but part of it is sale, part of this is salary, part of it is healthcare, part of it, whatever it is, part of it is after tax planning, whatever that is, if I still get the same number, then I may have 3 or 4 different things going into that number. And so that's a part of the understanding. Use the words after tax cash flow. We got to know what that looks like and how much we need. This is a biggie. We have to know how that deal structure works. We have to understand the dependency of the income so that we can plan up there at the personal financial plan appropriately. And all that will turn around and drive our business. It will drive our budget, what our KPIs are, and what our goals are. So this is very important. Family awareness of the planned business. Sadly, I don't know that anybody in my family knows what I do for a living. Sometimes I don't think my partners know what I really do for a living, but that's just kind of part of it. So the level of family discussions have to increase in my household. So we are having family discussions, no question. It doesn't hurt that I've got a couple of daughters that have actually been in the business. Catherine's still in the business. But, so I'm going to give myself a 3 here. Actually, I should do a 4. I think I'm probably a 4. Don't you think, Jordan? Probably there. So,
I would have
so
no
there
way
we
of
are.
knowing that it's your family.
Yeah. So I'm going to add those scores up real quick, and then we're going to go through the math. Okay. So 2, 4, 8. Okay. 8 plus 5 plus 3, 6, 6 plus 8 plus 8 plus 4. 39. So I have a 39 out of 66. So I'm a 59%. So I'm just a little above average. Okay. So I am a little above average. Now, what would happen in our firm? So there we are, 66 down here, 59. I'm just a little above average. So in the firm, we get Jordan's back, we get Blake's back, we get Catherine's back, average them on out. That tells us, do we need to put some focus on goals associated with this? Now, my rule of thumb is if I have anything below a 4, we need to have a plan and ownership of that plan. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things, 6 out of 11 things that are below a 4. Some of the 3s will take care of themselves as I increase some of the other elements. But the first 2, I need to get an action plan on the very first 2. Anything that's a 2, below a 3, that's your number 1 goals, right? That makes sense. So those are my goals. Those will be my goals going into this next section. Okay. So Jamie, any questions on how we've filled out the personal readiness score?
It doesn't look like it yet.
Okay. All right. So going to switch back. Everybody bear with me while I try and figure out the share options again so I can get that righteous. Okay. Boom. All right. So what you should be looking at now is something that says personal readiness scoreboard, scorecard. Is that what you see?
No, Bill.
Oh, we see
What do
the
you see?
slides.
Same slide. That's awesome. Okay. What do you see now? Personal readiness goals.
The slide, yes.
Okay, perfect. So where we are now is we filled out that score chart. And here are what I would call the normal below 4s. Many of these will be 3s or 2s. The first one is normally a 2. Some of them are 1s, written personal plan. Once again, written, that's a big deal. Yeah, I think about it all the time. Yep, thinking about it doesn't get you there. Writing it down. What they found, all studies have basically concluded that if you write something down, you're 60% more likely to achieve it. If you write it down and put it on your refrigerator, you're almost 85% more likely to achieve it, just because now it's in your face every day. Okay. Think about what happens on the weekend. You're going one direction, your spouse is going another direction. You make sure you get whatever you're supposed to do written down somewhere so you can look at it, so you can address it, so you don't forget because you get wrapped up in something else. Okay, so written personal personal plan, and then going into a personal financial plan. Clients, if we don't have a personal financial advisor, then please call me. Let's get that going. That's a big deal. Okay. The personal financial advisor is going to help you understand where you are financially. Maybe just as important, they're also going to help you really assess whether or not the retirement plan you have in your business is applicable to the person you are in, the position you are in with the employee group that you have. Okay, so it's a big deal. Okay, we've done a lot of work with clients on just helping them understand a better financial plan that they have inside their business. How's the 401k structure? Do I have a pension and profit sharing kicker? Should I be doing a big plan? All these different things. So if you don't have a financial advisor for either you or for your business, give us a call. Let's get that started. The post-business income needs, that's a big deal. It's hard. It's hard. Okay. I don't want to underscore that it's easy. Okay. This is hard. Well, I have no idea, Bill. Of course you don't. But what happens is you take it a little piece at a time. Well, what are we living on now? I don't know. Okay, how much cash do I have at the end of the month? Let's start backing into it. We'll take little pieces out of it. The next thing you know, we'll define it. And then from there, once you've defined it once, it just gets better. Knowledge of the transition process, that's clearly my job. I want to make sure I help you understand the different ways to transition internally or with external team members. It just depends. If you don't have a really good training program inside, if you don't have processes inside, then you may not be able to transition very quickly. And you need to know that. You need to know that if I'm hit by a bus and I'm out of pocket for the next 3 months, how does the business keep going forward? That's transition. Okay, so let's talk about that. The established advisory team, the same advisory team that's used in your business, you could use personally. It could be both, because remember, this is kind of a big deal. There's an interrelationship here. So don't hesitate to use both of them. If you don't have an established advisory team, you probably do, but let's put some formality with it and let's make sure that we're getting all of our 2s to 4s. That's what we want to do. Okay. Define contingency plans. That's going to go into the piece of transition, because transition isn't just when I get older and I want to retire. Transition is being prepared for what comes at you that you're not ready for or that you didn't see coming. The 50% of us that will have to do something with our business before we're ready. That's what contingency and transition are about on the personal level, is being ready when we didn't expect something to happen. And finally, the family awareness. It is really important. And I do understand that many small businesses are a little reticent to bring our children into whatever process they're going through from a personal perspective, especially if there's some family welfare that they've been building through this business. There is always the concern that our children will expect something and then change their life, make that change, make a decision that impacts their life, where they leave some success on the table, so to speak, in anticipation of something they may get from mom and dad. That is an ongoing concern with every client of wealth that I discuss. But what we have to do is we have to figure out the best route for that family. Okay. So family awareness. We're going to go into the business scorecard next. And while I'm trying to get that figured out, Jamie, do we have any questions? Or Jordan, do you have any comments? And I'll be quiet while I try and get the next piece figured out.
I just sent you I just want to make you aware that we are 40 minutes into the presentation. Just a heads up.
And we do not currently have any questions. I think you're on mute, Bill.
What do you see, Jordan? You see readiness score?
I see readiness score. Make sure you
Awesome.
zoom in on it quite a bit.
All right, so this is our business readiness scorecard, going back to what we've just been underscoring over and over and over. And I will cover this fairly quick because here's the thing, is that the cobbler's kids have no shoes. That works. I mean, you pretty much say that for most of my small businesses. I think we're going to get through some of these where I believe that many of my small businesses probably are already doing some of this. The question is, at what level? At what level are we doing this? Okay, so the first one is brand. Even startups have a brand. This is the year, this is the decade, this will be the generation of the internet and the power of the internet, B2B on the internet. People looking for your business, and they'll go first to the internet because we don't have phone books anymore. We don't use yellow pages. We Google stuff and we go from there. So your brand is key. So do you understand that the value that your brand can bring to your business? And are you using your brand to add value? Okay. I believe at HKA, we're not best in class, but I do believe we acknowledge this and we're working diligent to get this going. So does the brand add value? Go ahead.
I was going to say, just to link it back to this overall process. So the last thing we did was we got our personal vision of this is where I want to go. Now we're assessing our business of, is this thing actually able to get me there?
Yeah, perfect. Absolutely. Yes. Because if you aren't even identifying your brand, if we're not even focusing on our brand, then we better put some money in the budget, right, to get our brand. Absolutely, Jordan. Company documentation. I'm going to, once again, at HK, I think we spent a lot of time on this. Okay, so I'm going to give myself a 4 here. We have a good operating agreement. We're in the process of redoing it, putting it together. We have, I wouldn't call them buy-sell plans. We have other plans. We have a lot of things here. We have good legal documentation. Our corporate documents need a little work, but we do have a good track record. But company documentation, folks, is critical. Okay, whether you transition to the next generation, or you transition to your children, or you transition to somebody coming in that you've hired, or you sell, whatever that is, if you don't have this, it's going to slow down the process, and you're going to take a little bit of a hit on your value. Because if you don't have the right documentation from a corporate company perspective, you know, and one of them would be your brands, those legal documents associated with branding and tangible assets, then you're going to get dinged. That's just all there is to it. So very important. Compliant issues, taxes, environmental, regulatory, retirement. This is really, we sweep through that and we say, am I keeping all my taxes paid? And remember, this is about the business. Am I keeping my taxes paid? Are payroll taxes paid? Are the retirement contributions being made as they're supposed to be made? If I'm in a business which has some, you know, some regulated business like financial advisory or broker dealers or, you know, what, any of that kind of banking, whatever you are, if you're in one of those, then, you know, that's that. So I think HKA is a 5. Once again, I don't think that anybody's a 6. I think it's really tough to be a 6, but we're at least a 5. We're very close to best in class. But I think that all public accounting firms probably are. Okay, so it really isn't that. But your business, look at it from that perspective. You may look at taxes and say, I have no idea. Call us. We have a lot of ideas on taxes, okay? Because taxes, environmental, regulatory, and retirement, those 2 bookends are things that we help our small business clients with a lot. And if I haven't gotten to you, my apologies, give us a buzz, because those are things we're very passionate about. Credibility and justification. Second one really kind of goes back up to that branding, right? Because Google reviews and Jordan, what's the one? The other one? There's Google reviews. And what's the other one?
Yelp.
Yelp. Yelp. Those are important things, folks. I used to discredit them a lot. So that was 2 or 3 years ago. I realized there's a lot of important there. So if I'm not putting on my LinkedIn page and on my company website and all those things, how I'm participating in the broader community, especially in today's age, I believe that our current clients and the future of our clients are going to want to know that we're more than just a firm, that we're a firm who acknowledges our importance in the broader community. And I believe that we must be looking at that. That's why the second one is justification, credibility and justification. Now, I think HKA does a good job here. I think we're constantly striving to be better at this. Where do you think, Jordan? Is that a 3 or a 4?
I would say probably a 3.
Okay. All right. So I'll take that. So we're a 3. We're just a little below average in the genre because a lot of people are really good at it. We're in the process of rolling out a new website. We're in the process of doing some rebranding. I believe that once we get that up, and then when we spend the next 6 months getting it all integrated, I believe we'll easily be a 4. Don't know that we'll be a 5 yet, but we'll get to a 4. Customer contracts, strategic alliances, warranties, maintenance contracts. Do we have a handle on all that stuff? Are you aligning yourself in your industry with the top tiers, with the top players? Are you doing any alignment at all? Are there any strategic alliances at all? Understanding that and looking through that is very, very important with whether or not your business is valued. If you have that, I get a little tick up. If I don't have it, it may not ding me, but I got a good chance of it being dinged. Okay, so definitely want to get those things going. I'm going to give Hawk Cruising Associates, I think we're at a 4 here. I think we're poised to continue driving to a 5, but I think we're at a 4. Jordan, what do you think?
I was going to say a 4 or a 3. I think we've been improving in this area specifically with some of the things we've been doing with people we've been partnering with. So I would say
Okay.
a 3 on our way to a 4.
Okay, I'll go with that. Okay, 3 on the way to 4. Employee management issues. Woohoo! This is a big one for everybody. In this environment, if you haven't been watching the op-eds for the Wall Street Journal and New York Times, which I don't read a lot of, but I have been watching those op-eds, there's a ton of stuff about how people are saying, I just lived through COVID. Life's too short. I'm going to go get the job I want. Okay, so turnover is a big deal. Okay, so that means that it's such a big deal. You better make sure your teammates are happy, that you're giving them the workplace, the work environment that they want to stay with you. So I think this employee management issues are a big deal. Yesterday's Wall Street Journal, Apple leadership reaffirmed that we believe that our team must be together in the office and we'll have mandatory hybrid work days. You are not just working from home. So they have hit their turnover. They understand their team place. They understand our marketplace. And they've also looked at their why and said, we believe we drive too much value in our process, which Apple is a very niche process, even though it's a huge company. At the end of the day, it's got this certain cachet that really is from well thought out collaboration from very creative people. So I actually applaud them. I think they've done the right thing with their product, okay? But you better be there with that. So employee management issues. We actually also, so my small businesses, okay? We're a small firm, 16 people. The fact of the matter is we have an HR department, okay? We don't really have a department. We outsource that to Tiffany. And she does a fabulous job for us. So if you need that, if you're a small business and you're like, well, I really don't do much with HR. If you don't have HR, the question isn't why don't you, it's you better get it fast. Okay, you better have someone who is looking at your healthcare, your benefits, the team itself, and providing resources or an outlet so that they can respond to this, so that your team can respond, et cetera. So I believe this is a key issue, maybe not cornerstone, but it is going to be a key issue today and going forward to maintain your workforce, your strongest asset. So I'm in the, here, I think I'm about I have to say that the morale thing is something I've just loved, all the things we've done at HKA. So we have daily meetings and they're just fun to be on. So I'm going to give ourselves a 4 here, Jordan. Or you think we 3, 4? Where are you there?
I was thinking 4, 5. So yeah, I think that's good.
Okay.
We actually have a good question of, is this readiness score something that business owners should collaborate with other business owners while filling it out, or do it separately?
So I believe that you should, well, so Jordan and I are kind of collaborating here, right? So I don't necessarily have a problem with the collaboration as long as you're just getting one score, right? So I don't have a problem with it. Now, if I'm looking at if one of these and I'm like, no, this is a 2, 3, and Jordan's like, this is a 4, 5. Yeah, we need to separate those two and we need to identify those pretty quickly. But that's a great question. So I think it just depends. What you don't want to do is sugarcoat this. This has to be raw and honest, because if you sugarcoat this, if you shortchange this, pretty much everything else you did is going to be less valuable to the business. So I think that's up to you. I probably would go with do it yourself and then collaborate if you want to, or do what Jordan and I are doing right now. So good question. Very good question. Expense contracts, rare in every business is to have an expense contract. Now, when you think about it, Hawk Cruise Associates, we do upfront pricing. That's kind of an expense contract. I am the expense contract for you, for your small business. But do I have them with everyone? Now, what else should come with that is deliverability, right? So if I have an expense contract, one of the flaws we see with a lot of expense contracts is it does tell me what I'm going to pay, but it doesn't tell me what happens if I don't like your stuff, or if you miss a delivery, or whatever, for whatever reason. So I do think that they're very important. I also think they're fairly rare, but where you can have them, this is telling us you should, because this is about the continuity of the business. If I'm in transition, I've been hit by a bus and now Jordan's running the firm, I can't have Tiffany decide that she's not going to continue to do my HR stuff. Okay, that impacts me and impacts Jordan. So these are very important things. So I think that we need to have something here. I think I'm at about a 4 here. Once again, a 5, I wouldn't know if I'm there yet or not. So Jordan, unless you have a problem with that, I think we're about a 4 there right now.
Yeah, I don't. I honestly don't touch on that part too much, like in terms of our actual contracts. I'll review some things, but not a lot of them.
Yeah. So expense management. Now, this is a totally different thing, folks. And the area of expense management we're talking about here is not my budget to actuals. This is the things around the edges, okay? This is the things that make you more money silently, and one of the things, banking, cash, payroll, okay? So let's just do banking and cash. What that goes to is, many of us have a pretty good slice of our income being paid for by credit cards, okay? And many of us are getting 3.5% credit card fees, okay? Well, that takes a pretty good bite out of profits, okay? Because that's where it's coming from. It's not coming from expense, it's coming out of profit, okay? So just a little bit of cleanup on that, just a little bit of focus on your credit card fees and your bank fees, your bank relationship, and I'm gonna put that aside right now, but those credit card fees alone can add, you could easily get from, if you're at 3.5, you could probably easily get to 3. It depends on your risk reward. I've got some that are getting down 2.5 to 2.75. So you really want to be looking at those things. This is the money around the edges that once you fix it, you just keep going now and you're just making more money than you were before. Now, banking, strong believer in a banking relationship, even if you don't need borrowed money. Strong believer in your banking relationship. If you're leaving more than $100,000 in your checking account at any given time, you need a treasury policy with your banker about sweeping funds in and out so that you can get some treasury rates, at least at night, sweep out, sweep back in, keep it swept off, do some sort of payment line of credit so that maybe you have a zero checking account balance and you move money out of a sweep account only when checks hit, or you move it in from a line of credit, and then you keep everything else in a very short-term money market account or something like that. So I think this part of expense management is not, is meals and entertainment too high for my sales, or is cost of goods sold too high? That's not what this is. This is the stuff on the edges. Jordan, you're getting ready to say something.
So two things. One, we've got 5 minutes left, Bill. So I think maybe for this list, you go through and you highlight anything that you see here where maybe it would be tricky. And number two, if I was doing this with you independently, I would say right about now, I see that we have lots of 4s and 5s and 2 3s. So I'd say we're giving this it's called the ugly baby syndrome, I believe, where like we love it because we're involved with it. So we're probably not being completely honest with ourselves while we're assessing it.
That's a good one. That's a really good comment, Jordan. And I do think that that's, you can be a little close to the trees, right? Putting a lot of effort into it. So it might be one of those things. I think that's a really good thing. So back to the earlier question, right? You probably should do it independently, but definitely you want to make sure you got a sounding board. I want to focus then on financials. I'm amazed at the number of my small business clients that don't review their financials at the end of every month. They're 2, 3, 4 months in arrears from getting them closed. They aren't running budget to actuals, and that is a cause of concern. Immediate value readiness, intellectual property. I have a lot of small business clients who aren't paying attention to their joie de vivre, what they do for a living. That is your trademark. You have to put that in. It goes back up to my branding. So if you can lock those down, you probably should begin doing it. R&D is a big thing. If you are at risk on contracts, even if you're a service industry, if you are at risk on contracts, give us a call. There might be a research and development tax credit program that we can put together. Management systems and forecasts. Forecasting is huge. Really, I have to say it's the end of this that's really very important. Go through each one of these. May ask some questions. Give us a call. We would love to help you finish the scorecard. I'm sorry I'm running out of time here, but let me get back to the slides. And I pray that it doesn't take me 3 days to get there.
So Bill, while you do that, we got another question of would it be helpful to have just the business owner do that or all their employees do it? I would say
no,
this in the middle of decision makers.
The only person that should be doing this are the business decision makers. Now, if you're big enough, okay, you may have a division and they'll do one for that division, okay? But no, you don't want all the employees because quite frankly, all the employees may not know all the things that your management team, but everybody that's on your management team should be doing this, okay? So even at Hawk Cruise, I don't know that all my teammates know what we do, okay? So that they have a pretty good idea because I'm pretty boisterous, but at the same time, I think this is just for your management team. That's another great question. These are the normal readiness issues. I got 3 minutes. I don't think I need to go through those. This is what I want us to take away from it is we have to align our scores, anything below a 3 with our strategic budget and our financial goals, period. You must do that. All scores below a 3 should be assigned a timeline for improvement, and some may occur in another financial year. That's just the fact of the matter. Bite this up a little bit at a time. If you try to take too big of a meal here, you won't get it done, okay? So bite small bites. Each goal has to have a business owner. What I mean by that is each goal that I'm trying to improve, Jordan, you're owning that. Bill, you're owning that. Catherine's owning this and Blake's owning that. So somebody has to own the improvement goals. The advisory boards, you've heard me say it, big fan, and I go to the key employees. So if you have key employees that are trying to get you from 2 to 4, and they may not be in the management, but they are strategic and key, and you are trying to get them from a 2 to a 4. You give them a lot of extra responsibility. You might want to consider increasing some bonuses or having some bonuses. So once again, I just want to thank everybody. Sorry, I got a little bit down in the weeds there. This is a very important process. Please do it. Please call us if you have questions. I can't underscore that you can't get into budgeting unless you've done goal setting, period. Cannot get into budgeting unless you do, if you want it to be effective, okay? So multi-part series. Budgeting is going to be just as fun. It'll be a worksheet. You'll have a worksheet ahead of time, and we'll get started on this hopefully a little bit earlier. I'll try and stay out of the weeds. Jordan, thank you very much for good questions. Way to come in on that, and thank you for those good questions out there. Our next one is August. It's going to be the first Thursday of August of this year, and we're going to talk about purposeful budgeting. Budgeting is focused on both what did we learn from our goal setting session and what do we need to drive from our personal session and the business readiness, both of those things. So that's purposeful budgeting, not just budgeting for the sake of budgeting. One caveat, Don't get frightened by budgeting if you've never done it before. Your base level is, what'd you do last year? Let's start there. Let's just get a number. And now that'll allow me to then strategically choose different categories of expense that will then become key performance indicators. We'll focus on those. Get the baseline, focus on your KPIs. That's what our purposeful budgeting is. And that's next first Thursday of August, next month. Last questions, Jamie. Any final questions, Jamie or Jordan?
Doesn't appear so.
Okay, Jordan, you got the last word.
Thank you all for coming.
There we go. Thanks, folks.
Bye.
Have a great week. Have a blessed 4th of July.